Good morning, Michael.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Good. I'm a little bit unsettled because that is not the normal intro music, and therefore I have no idea when you're going to start the show because I used to know it like there was a certain part of the music that
Yes, that's right.
was the signal.
Well, listen, the producer, they upgraded the video package that we use, and it did away with the audio, and I couldn't remember the name of the audio we used, so I had to find
All right.
something new today.
Well, it's good audio. I'm not complaining. It's a good Friday beat. I'm just saying
Yeah, man.
that took a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
okay. Yeah, Michael's
yeah.
fixing his chair. I put a ball cap on today. Um, what's going on, Michael? Like what?
Uh,
You,
enjoying the Friday weather. We've got sun in Louisville, which is a gift. So
well,
it's gonna
not
be a good day.
only that, but like this is a week for people from Texas because not only did football do well, but for the first time in history, the Rangers won the World Series.
Yeah, it's been an emotional week for my Facebook feed for sure.
Yeah,
It's People may not understand what it's like to grow up as a Rangers fan, and it's not about winning or losing. It's about all the memories in the family with your family in the ballpark and all the giveaways that filled up your room when you were a kid and dressing up as Rangers players and stuff. It was never about the winning. It was about being at the ballpark and listening to the games together and all that kind of stuff and idolizing the players when you're little. So for us, it's great to have a victory, but it's not about the win. Honestly, it's about the memories. So thanks to the Texas Rangers.
yes. Well,
I don't even know if we ever need to win again. Like
there you go.
this was enough for a lifetime of people remembering their parents and grandparents who are no longer with us who would have been super excited about all this. So
Well, very cool. Most
yeah.
importantly, for those of you that know Michael and I, and particularly know Michael, the best part of the whole week was the text that I received from Michael last night at 6:27 p.m. that
Yeah.
said, I'm going to bed early tonight. Having a team in the World Series is exhausting.
Not used to it. Not used to being up until 11 o'clock in front of the TV like this in your pajamas.
That's right.
That is a new thing for me.
Well,
We didn't even get to see Ranger games during the season because of where we live. So
yeah,
it
that
wasn't
was
until
awesome.
postseason. But yeah, yes, it has
Even
been a
then,
week.
your college football team's doing amazing there in
They
Louisville.
are.
So
They are. Yeah, yeah,
got
yeah.
another
Yeah,
great weekend there.
it's fantastic. Yeah, yeah. And if anybody's listening from Arizona, Diamondbacks are a classy organization. Classy, classy, classy. I would have also been okay if they won
Yeah,
because
well,
I enjoyed them so much. So congratulations to the Diamondbacks and hope you win next year.
yeah. It's funny, Michael, because I'm the one that remembers with my senior year that we won. The Diamondbacks won
Mm,
for the first time. I'm from Arizona, and I remember those emotions. So awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Well, a couple announcements, and then have Michael tell you why we've done the show now for almost 2 years and jumping back into it more. But don't forget
Hmm.
about our Combustion Chronicles. Here are the last 5 episodes if you have not gone out to listen to them or at all this season. It has been around women in healthcare leadership and healthcare.
Yep.
And what a powerful season it's been. And I'm just going to give a sneak peek into next season because we're going to really focus in on the kind of like the 40 under 40 list
Mm,
in healthcare.
all
And
right.
it's going to be season 10 of some real innovators and disruptors who have some real wild thoughts on what healthcare should be going forward. So that'll be coming out sometime in January. So be looking for that as well in 2 weeks. Podcasting and leadership. Billy is a dear friend of ours. He actually has helped do our podcast at Podify. You want to be on here for that in 2 weeks. But Michael, why are we 2 years in the making of this show?
Hmm.
This year's been a little rough with a lot of things going on, but we're going to get back really at it in 2024. Tell our audience why before we bring up our guest.
So, gonna give a shout out to our friends at Question Pro. We got to go to the X Day North America, their conference about all things insights last week in Austin. Best conference I've been to in a bit, and we've been to some good conferences. So shout out to them. And shout out to all the conferences we go to. Don't mean to set a difference there, but it was a really great experience. And what I appreciated the most is these were like crazy data nerds, and they were talking about stuff that I have no idea how to keep up with, and yet it all tied back to listening to people and listening to people's stories and paying attention to people for the sake of revenue, for the sake of change, for the sake of making things better. So if you think that experience is mutually exclusive to revenue, and if you think that experience is fluff, and you think that having to focus on culture is just a waste of money, think again, because the data shows that when you listen to people, then you can make better decisions. And that's listening to your employees, that's listening to your customers, that's listening to your vendors. It was great. It was fantastic. So shout out to Question Pro. If anybody, Question Pro is here. Anybody from the X Day was there here today. It was a great time to just really remember that customer insights, employee insights are game changing to increasing revenue. Like those things are tied together. So I could keep talking a long time, but we don't want to do that. We want to get on with our show today.
Well, awesome. Brian Carlson is the VP of patient experience at Vanderbilt Medical Center. Brian joined Vanderbilt in 2007 as administrator of the Vanderbilt Eye Institute. Prior to Vanderbilt, he served as CEO and COO of a multi-specialty physician group practice in Western New York and started his professional career at Northwestern Medical Faculty Foundation in Chicago. In his current role, he is strategically and operationally responsible for institutional performance on service programming and metrics, as you were just talking about, Michael. Operationally, he has direct oversight to guest services, patient relations, service consulting, and Center for EMS Excellence. Strategically, he advises on institutional patient experience goals and improvement, employee engagement, culture, and patient engagement programs, including their online patient portal, My Health at Vanderbilt. So let's welcome Brian to the stage with us, Michael. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Hello, good morning.
It is so good to have you here, Brian. And I actually think it was in the middle of September. I was privileged enough to go to the PX Symposium in Boston. And I actually heard you on a panel talk about this topic of transformational leadership strategies to advance patient care. And I think what was powerful to me for that is we already had in our minds what we thought it was going to be about. And then when you got into there, it was something completely different. And that's what I loved about it. So as we jump in there, we always start same questions every show with this simple question, brother. And it is, why do you do what you do, and what keeps you motivated as you do it?
Wow, that's a great question. I want to start by just acknowledging, Michael, congratulations on the Rangers win. I was hoping you were going to share like the moment they won and your reaction, and if the neighbors called to say, "Are you okay over there? What's going on?" as you screamed and yelled and whatnot.
There was some screaming and clapping, but I didn't even wake my wife up. So it was me, pajamas in front of the TV like this.
Yeah.
But Facebook and text was exploding at the time. So a lot of people my age crying over a win. It was nuts.
Well, I remember when the Cubs won it because I'm a Cubs fan, and that was a big, huge deal. So similar to Rangers.
Yeah.
Why do I do what I do? You know, healthcare is such a special industry, and I believe it's humans caring for humans. There's no other place with a calling that is ingrained in it, and the ability to influence not only the caregivers, but also the delivery of care, just knows you're making a difference in someone's life. And sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. But it's down the line, you find out one little thing you said made a difference in someone's day, in the direction they're taking, whether they work for Vanderbilt or they're providing, or they're a patient here. It's making that difference, and just knowing that we're making it a better place and we're improving people's lives and outcomes. That's why I do what I do.
Fantastic.
Love it. And that's I know you're passionate around it, Brian. So that's not surprised on what you said there. And so, Brian, when you and I were talking, I said, hey, give us something to just kind of start this conversation about, what does this look like for transformational leadership strategies? And I was actually pleasantly surprised by this quote that you gave, to quote all of us know. And it is a real simple one. Culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
By Peter Drucker. It's been around for a long time. I used it in healthcare and still use it in healthcare. But why this quote for this particular topic?
Yeah, because I think, or I know, that the culture, how we do our work each and every day, influences the experiences those who come to see us and those who work for us have. So I almost think of it as experience equals culture that equals experience, because it's our staff experiences that develop our culture, contribute to our culture, that then in turn influence the experiences those are coming to us for care and for help, those experiences they're having. And I think that as organizations, we have to be more and more intentional and pay attention to the culture, our cultures, what we're trying to do, the work we're trying to do. And we can't just say it in words. It has to be alive in actions. So yeah, we need, I was at the Becker's conference last year. And if I heard the term culture by CEOs once, I heard it like a dozen times. And the thing about it is, they would say it, but everyone would be like, okay, now what? What do I do? What do I do with it? How do I influence the culture? How do I build the culture? How do I change the culture? Whatever path, and every organization is different in where they are in terms of their culture. But I think it needs to become more and more of a focus, especially in the healthcare space.
Michael, I know you have some thoughts around this.
Well, how tough do we get? We only have we don't have all day, right? So let's go deep. I'm a CFO. This might be based on personal experience just a little bit, right? Yeah. So I'm a CFO. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm trying to get reimbursements from the insurance companies. My job is on the line every day. I'm looking at inflation. I'm looking at all this, and I see this line in the budget that is, patient experience, or I see this expense of like employee picnic, or whatever it is. And I set up a meeting with you and say, come on, like, we've got to cut back. This is wasted money. We can't do this. Like, yeah. What's your response? And I don't want to get you in trouble, and not saying you've ever been there. We have not talked about this before now, everybody. Yeah. But just knowing the stories that we hear, what's your response to that?
Yeah. Fortunately, I have not been in that direct situation, so I'll say that up front. But I know several of my friends and colleagues who've told me stories. They have been in those situations. Mm-hmm. And culture is how we do our work each and every day. So the culture of the organization not only affects the revenue line, but also affects the expense line. And on the revenue line, the experiences, the culture of the organization that's driving, the outcomes that's driving, is driving people's choices, not only on whether they're going to come back, but I would also say whether they come back at all. That think of it this way: there are patients who are choosing to not come and get care because of the experiences they're having. And those experiences are driven by the culture of the organization. Are they listened to? Are they included? Are they getting their questions answered? All of those factors that come into play that individuals are making choices about. And that's the fun but difficult thing about experiences. It's not one thing. It's the sum of everything. You know, the Barrel's definitions, the sum of all the interactions. But on the you go to the other side of the ledger sheet and the expense side. Think of all of the money that we waste in inefficient processes that create more work for the workforce, create stress on their part, create that frustration that they have that ultimately drives them to think, wow, do I want to be part of this organization or not? And then what happens? They choose to leave. Well, we all know how much it costs to replace a workforce member.
And if
So
you don't, you need to make sure you do, right? Like that needs to be a hard number that you can quote.
Exactly. So as a CFO, experience, culture is both sides of the ledger sheet. It is influencing all of those things inherently. The squishy stuff is that they can't get their head around. It's not tactical to say, go do this and you will get that. It is so much more than that. And that's where the CFOs need to be around the table so they hear the conversations about the strategies, about the tactics, about how we handle things that we do each and every day. So, and I would, I also think of it in the space of, it starts with an individual. So me as an individual, am I a culture enhancer or a culture taker aware here at Vanderbilt? And if I'm not enhancing and contributing, then I need to question myself. And what, am I in the right place? Am I the right fit for, where I'm working? Because if I'm not contributing and enhancing the culture, I'm not doing that culture favor by doing that. And then the last thing I would say is, I do a monthly new leader orientation. And I think this is in the leadership space of culture. There's a great quote on LinkedIn, and I wish someone would come up and own it, but no one has claimed it. And it's this: what you permit, you promote; what you allow, you encourage; what you condone, you own. So think about that from a culture, from an experience standpoint. If you are allowing behaviors that are not aligned with your culture, you are taking away from your culture. You are inhibiting the culture growth there. We as leaders have to lean into those and have those difficult conversations when things are not aligned from a cultural standpoint. Looks like we lost Michael.
It looks like we lost Michael. He'll come back and join us. I love what you're saying there, Brian, as far as I don't think people really dig into it in that way. And so we've talked about how do you have that conversation with the CFOs and, how do you own this and how do you move forward with all of this? So let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. And this is a question that I think our listeners need to hear, is how can culture be managed then? Mm-hmm. So we've talked about it from that big perspective, but how do you manage it then? And how do you tell, we have a ton of practitioners listening in this morning. How do you tell them the first step to start to manage culture?
Yep. Well, couple thoughts, and I'd be interested in yours as well, because I know you have opinions in this space and experience here too. First of all, I would pose that experience officers are also culture officers. So start thinking of yourself as a culture officer, and every culture is different. Every organization has a different culture, and that's the way it should be. So back to something I just said, it starts with you. It starts with me. Am I a culture contributor, or am I a culture enhancer, or am I a culture taker aware? And if my own work is not aligning, I need to look at myself first, because actions speak louder than words. And if my actions aren't contributing, then I need to pause and I need to get myself in a place where I know I am leading in the correct way to help this organization with their culture. So it starts with me. Then it goes into the next level of how are we holding each other accountable for the culture. So there's the foundational items that are very, very important. So we have what's called Credo. Think of that as values. Think of it as standards for behavior. We have our patient and family promise. those aren't just words on a piece of paper. Those are how we do. Those are the dictionary. Those are the blueprint for how you do the work. So organizations that lean into those and hold each other accountable to those behaviors start to develop the culture they want. If they just put it on a piece of paper, then everyone's going to rule the roost. The inmates are going to rule, and you're not managing it, because then you have disparate cultures going on across the organization. So you need that roadmap that people align to. And then lastly, you have to hire for it. And sometimes you have to fire for it. You have to hire for the culture. Are you a cultural fit? I know in the healthcare space, it's so hard to fill positions right now where we need to get bodies and jobs. That's important. Don't get me wrong. But you also need to look at that culture fit. Are they going to fit well with the culture of the organization? Yes or no? And sometimes it's not, and that's okay. There's a culture for everybody, but you need to think about that.
Love it. All right, we've got a couple questions here.
Yeah.
That are coming in. So, at Vanderbilt, are you working with any of your payers to enhance patient experience in your clinic or other outpatient settings?
Yes, but I think we need to do much more. I mean, I think that we still operate in a world where there's the payer and there's the provider, and those need to be one much more. So I think we have a lot of opportunity to build those bridges, and more payers are becoming incentivized for the experience of those members. Well, guess what? Those members are our patients. You can't. It's not one. It's one and the same, and so we can't do it, in our own little silos. And I think payers need to take a more active role in engaging the providers in what help do they need versus telling them what to do and throwing carrots and sticks across the fence to say, if you don't do this, we're going to incentivize you or take it away in penalties. It needs to be a collaborative conversation about how are your members, our patients, getting taken care of.
Love it. Love it. All right, we got a good one here for you. This is from Jeffrey Roush. Good morning.
Hey,
Brian Carlson, can you share how you integrate diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging into your experience work too?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we have been on the road, like many organizations, to make diversity, equity, inclusion much more intentional as an organization and have a lot more infrastructure around it now than we have in the past. And that infrastructure brings rigidity and also a seat at the table to ensure that we are dialoguing and taking all the different perspectives into play. So we're trying to be intentional about our committee makes up. Is it made up of a broad representation, both patient and employee? Obviously hiring for diversity, equity, inclusion. It's a journey, and I would say we are probably more advanced in that journey here at Vanderbilt than other organizations I've seen, but we still have a lot of work to do. But I'm very proud of the investments we've made and the very difficult conversations we're having to make it much more intentional that we're paying attention to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Again, love it. You know what? Let me give you this. I love this that has come up from Brian. Emotional bank account culture equal to Talk about that statement.
Yeah. I mean, well, think about it. I mean, we all want to feel part of something bigger than ourselves. We want to feel like we're contributing and part of a team. And when the organization demands so much of you, that's taking deposits away. They need withdrawals as well. And those are withdrawals. Sorry, wrong side of the equation. Those are withdrawals. They need the deposits as well to feel like they're being recognized for the work they're doing, to feel the congratulations, to see the accomplishments of the team and of the large organization that you work for. I mean, unfortunately, I think that there's more withdrawals going on right now than there are deposits. And I think that's where organizations need to really have the difficult conversations about how can you contribute more withdrawals than deposits. The same goes into our personal lives, in our personal relationships. You want to be in a relationship where you're giving more deposits than you are withdrawals, but the same goes for your work environment as well. So I think that's a great quote there.
Well, awesome. All right, Brian, last question, because we're getting close to the end here.
Yeah. Already?
I know. What's your one piece of advice to anyone working in not just patient experience, but an experience that you've learned and that you wish you would have learned early on in your career to give to them?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. And I have like the little bouncy balls in your head, the bouncy balls just going like in my head all over the place. I have like 20 of them going around. I will say this. It's about the people. We are in a human business, and people still do the work. Technology processes are there, but it's still people driven. And you need to pay attention to the people, how the people are feeling, how you are feeling. Back to my comment earlier, are you a culture contributor or are you a culture detractor? If you are a culture detractor, why? And how can you get yourself in a place, or the people you work with, to be enlightened, motivated, excited about the work they do, that they can be culture enhancers and not culture detractors?
Love it. I've said this and I will say it again and again. If you get the human experience right, you'll get the numbers you need. And I'm a finance person. So I tell people all the time, it's not about fluff, right? It is truly about get the human experience right. And you, a very dear friend of ours, and those of you that are listening in, our podcast, Combustion Chronicles, I talked about at the beginning of the season, but we opened season 9 up with Dr. Adrienne Boise, Brian. And, Dr. Adrienne.
Great. Yeah.
And she really pushed me to think different in that episode. And it's really kind of wrecked my world, because you can have human experiences that aren't necessarily right. Right. So she's starting to talk about this in such a powerful way around that humane experience. How do you create humane experiences for people? As I look back on my journey fighting cancer last year and what I went through, it wasn't always a great human experience. Having chemotherapy in healthcare is not a great experience, right?
No.
But there were moments where the humane experience was so important, and how my nurse treated me, and all. And I think that is such a thing for us practitioners, those of us that have worked in this space, to really start to lean into going forward, because we have to bring business value going forward, or I think this industry is gonna, I hate to say it, but die, right? Like, we're in such a tight financial thing happening in healthcare that we've got to start learning how to bring value.
Yeah.
So, well, Brian, thank you so much again. Thank you for jumping on for this quick 30 minutes today. Go out, follow Brian on LinkedIn. Obviously, you can connect with myself and Michael. Michael's Wi-Fi went down. Don't we all love technology until it doesn't work for us? So have a great weekend. If you're someplace warm, stay warm. If you're someplace cold, go make some soup, get in the fire. Glad I'm not in 12 inches of snow yet. So again, Brian, if you'll hang out, I'm going to close out here for a minute, and then I'll say bye to you. Awesome, brother. All right, everybody. Thank you again for today. And Michael sent his apologies, but technology happens. And again, as I mentioned, go out, listen to the Combustion Chronicles. These were the latest 5 episodes. Amazing 5 women in healthcare leadership. The last episode will drop this coming up Wednesday. There'll be 10 episodes this season. Go back and listen to them all. And then 2 weeks from today with Billy, a very dear friend of ours. And you need to listen to this, because I think we all get a little bit worn out on what podcasting is. But there's so much around podcasting and leadership and how you can learn from it. But to all of you, again, thank you. And we will see you in 2 weeks.